Hey, making this video to talk about my relationship with Avi, how I met him, how he's changed the course of where I was headed to be a little more on track to where I need to be, and just general thoughts of what I think this partnership helps me and why I think I need it as opposed to someone else. So I met Avi in a group chat where I was with two other guys, and then there was Avi, me, so it was four people in total. And I had asked the chat what they thought about this automation that I was wanting to do for Home Inspector. And Avi sent down a breakdown of how to approach it, right? It wasn't something that took too long. It was maybe like 5 minutes, but he'd never met me. So the fact that he would propose a solution to someone in a group chat that he doesn't know anything about, he doesn't know me, he doesn't have anything to gain other than just to give value for the expectation of nothing in return. I was like, that's interesting. So I wanted to get on a call with him and understand why he did that in the first place and what he was expecting from that. Because I like to understand people's mental models and how they operate and why they do specific things. Because I want to take that for myself, and I want to also surround myself with someone who, not someone, but people in general who provide value first, because that's a huge green flag for me. So that was the first green flag with Avi. And then when I got in a call with them, it was instantly about me. It wasn't about him. Like, obviously, you share banter back and forth, but Avi's not egotistical in a way where he just keeps sharing about himself. He would share what was necessary to make a point. So those are small little things that I kind of look out for in people in general and why they say things in the communication patterns, and like there's more green flags. And the conversation progressed to where I was in my current situation. So we got in that call in the first place to just find out more about each other and just like say, hey, how you doing? We're in this group chat. What are you working on? What am I working on? Just basic stuff. But it turned into kind of a therapist session, I'd say. Avi has a lot of attention to detail on the small things and how they might impact a person's worldview and approach to the world. So we started talking about how I was approaching automation consulting, how I got into it, where I am with my current position at my job, which at that time I was considering leaving my job. And now, at the time of this recording, I've now left that job completely. I now work for myself. And I needed to have a second opinion on what I was doing, which was at that moment a very volatile point in my life. And it still is largely. And I got some extra input and direction from Avi based off of the actual context that I was in. It wasn't basic, self help guru bullcrap that you hear from other people saying, oh, you just like gotta push through it, or, stay at your job. It was like, what is your problem actually? Like, you are trying to do this thing. Why are you doing that thing? What is making you choose this thing over something else? And so we went really in depth with what the problem was. And after I gave him all the information, which was useful because on my part, that information's in my brain, but it's not like written out. It wasn't verbally spoken. It was just conversations I've had with a few people. And we came to the conclusion that the best part for me was to quit my job. And so I quit my job because I was at that time on a performance improvement plan. So it's just like, I'm already out the door. I may as well just leave with with the month I had of PTO I'd taken, and do this full time, because there is a very real chance to do well, and there's still a risk to do not well. So to point out succinctly why that first interaction with Avi was great was because we had talked about a lot about myself, and it wasn't really about him. Like, again, he only said things that were necessary as he thought they were necessary to say. So it was really all about me. And I'm the kind of person that thrives in really high intense one-on-one interpersonal relationships. I need someone there who's going to be not accountable for my actions, but someone who, if I say I'm going to do this and he calls me out and says, hey, you didn't do this, I'll be like, wow, I didn't do that. This is not a good feeling. Like, there's social constraints to what I'm able to do based off of who I tell it to, right? So I have to like be true to my word. And so far, I think it's been valuable because there is a huge aspect to the plan that we were working with, which is your business is an extension of yourself. And right now I am the business, and there's a lot that is up in the air with, the business processes and what's important, and how to actually achieve the next best thing that is useful for the business, and while also maintaining the personal livelihood that I have for myself, like my own structures, my own thought patterns, my own beliefs. Like, how do you integrate that all into one, and how do you manage that? And so I can show you here what I came up with, like with Avi, and it's very useful for me. But this was my pattern. This was a daily calendar. We have the planned out, and then we have the to do on the far left here. I'm not sure how this is oriented, but then I have my notes on the other page, which is very useful. And so Avi just stressed the importance of personal plans, and how your own personal plan as opposed to a business plan is more important at this stage. So I took that to heart, and I spent like a whole week just trying to understand myself, what I was doing and how important it was to me. And now the daily plan has been tremendously useful for me. So that was the first nudge in the right direction. How I imagine it is that there's a person on a tightrope, right? So imagine there's a person who has Avi on his corner walking a tightrope, and there's this guy over here who doesn't have that rope, who's also doing the same thing, but Avi's not there. And so here I am walking on the rope, and then Avi will like push me in certain directions so I'm not falling off, right? So I'm able to walk straight. But then there's this guy over here who falls off. And he falls off again. And he falls off again. Avi is there to stop me from falling off the rope, right? Where applicable, because sometimes I have to learn things on myself too. But he pretty much is there to stop me. And so I'm like, I'll get to over here, right? But this guy that just fell off, he's still going to be like back here somewhere, because he needs to, get back on that rope and keep going. So I'll get over here while this guy's over here. And I think that's the best description of how I can describe this. Just the personalization aspect of having a plan detailed for me is useful. It's having someone to talk to, someone who can explain problems back to me better than me, even though they're my problems, but he sees it differently. He's very, I wouldn't say the word autodidactical, although he is to an extent, but he does know a lot about just everything in general, from your life to business. And one thing that I usually always look for in business partners and people who I work with is, have they suffered, right? The previous business partner who I worked on my previous venture, the main reason why I work with him, why is that there? The main reason why I work with him is because he has gone through a tremendous amount of trauma and pain. And I'm like, okay, I don't have that under my belt necessarily. So I'm kind of relying on you to help through the turbulent times, because I lack that experience. And so Avi has that as well. And so he's able to talk about that. So if you're in hell, like mentally, you're at the bottom of the chasm, and you're just traversing the trench, and you're in a really bad shape mentally, right? You want someone there to be able to talk to you through that. You're not going to be able to talk through that with a partner that you have, for example, like in a relationship, like girlfriend. Maybe you have a business partner, but like, what if they're also struggling with you and they're not as competent as you thought they were, right? There's all these risks that you incur if you don't have someone who you know can handle bad situations, right? Because it's easy to say that I can handle that, but it's when you get to there, I know myself, I'd rather have that second opinion there, and that's useful. It's kind of like a board as well. Like, you have a board that surrounds you. If you're a large organization, like let's say a multi-billion-dollar corporation on the S&P, you have a board to protect the company from specific risks. Avi's kind of that board, but he's also like a life coach. He's also a business mentor. He's been through this. And so in this beginning stage, right, he may have a percentage of profits on this first business, but you're going to build more businesses, right? You're here because you have high potential. And so this first business is, that makes sense, because you're going to build more out. At least that's the assumption that as this individual who has high potential, you're going to build out more businesses, and he's going to help you with this one. So to sum it up, I think I benefit from his services a lot because I am a very agreeable person. And we also took a personality assessment. And so I understood this about myself. I had done previous extensive personality assessments, but not like the ones Avi has done, where it takes into account your intellect, your ability to learn, your ability to maneuver across the 5 different domains of the Ocean model, if you're familiar with that, and how you should approach your personal plan based off of that. Right, so it gets very detailed and it's very in-depth. And I would say it's useful for someone like myself. So yeah, if you have any questions, Avi can give you my number, and I can just let you know how I've experienced certain things. And then this is the first recording that I'm going to have. I might make another one in the future, but this is just off the cuff what I've been able to orate as a first draft. So everything that you hear here is as honest and is applicable to a general situation of someone watching this, while also relating it to how my experience was with Avi. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. It's been a pleasure working with him.